Welcome to Embody, a space to embody your true color, love. I'm Pratima Prashajit. Here on the podcast, we like to talk about the emotions, the thought patterns, and the imaginations and dreams that add oomph to our lives, especially in finding a deep sense of joy in our everyday moments, because it is the frame of thought and the mindset and the emotions, the signature emotions that we feel in everyday moments, is what very much dictate our future. And we talk a lot about falling in love with the present moment and finding ourselves in company and conversations and contents that actually give us that deeper sense of empowerment and love and peace, very much. And when we start to cultivate and expand this innate sense of fulfillment, what you find is that sense of self, that sense of satisfaction and contentment with who you are as is, it expands. And the more you start to see situations and circumstances start to improve without you doing anything, all you ever did was very much given gratitude and just being in awe and wonder of what is and being alive in this present moment. With that being said, it is very much important for us to have that deeper sense of purpose, an idea, a thought, a dream that we have, which can very much expand our personal lives and multiply relationships and situations and circumstances around us. And for most of us, we may be uncertain of what that purpose is. And the more you be present in your inner and outer world and acceptance of the environment that you live, the job that you're doing, the families that you have, your bank account, your health, even if there are scenarios in our lives which we're not very much contented with, when we start to find the acceptance of who we are at this moment, where we've come from, it is that acceptance with here and now and all that we are and who we've become that very much creates opportunities as we stretch and grow personally and professionally. And when we think about our purpose, that idea, that dream, that vision that you have, it is something that very much add that bit of oomph in your everyday moments, help you to fall in love with your everyday moment as you place your attention on this vision, whatever it is, whatever this purpose is, whether that purpose is to entertain, if it's to heal, if it's to teach, if it's to communicate, empower, and inspire, to love, whatever your purpose is, it is very much important for you to know that idea, that intention, within the intention contains the mechanisms for fulfilling itself. That's the way physics and consciousness and awareness. That's how it works. Deepak Chopra talks about it in all of his 100 books that he has written. And I find it so fascinating. Do you know when you may have an idea? Let's say you have this shoe that you want to buy or a blue car, and your mind and your thoughts and your emotions and your imaginations, this inner environment, it is all about this blue car that you want to write, that you want to buy or you admire. And all suddenly out of nowhere, all you're seeing when you step outside is blue cars. You glance at a TV ad or a billboard and you see a blue car. Someone send you a random forward on your WhatsApp and it's a story about a blue car. And that happens is, what happens is when we give our attention to something that very much trigger awe and wonder in this very moment, what happens is you start to rewire your patterns of thinking and feeling. It starts to rewire automatically in alignment to what is it, the feelings that are being invoked when you give your attention to whatever that thing is, an object, an idea, relationship, and whatnot. What this very much tells you is that when you have an idea for yourself, a goal, a dream, an intention, a purpose in life, your brain, your inner environment, your emotions, your thought patterns, in your feelings, they all aligned, like they start to collaborate with each other, like talking to each other in this conversation, like, yo, she wants this blue car, so we have to work together and to rewire certain patterns so that she can stay attuned in vibration of achieving this car or whatever the goal is. And it is very much difficult to explain, but when you set an intention, there is so much power within intentions, intention setting, intention goals, visions. When you are, there's miraculous clarity of what is it you want, and you can get clear just writing it on a piece of paper and record it and know that it's there. Within that recording, within that intention that you would have written down, it contains the mechanisms for fulfilling itself. And your brain, your bodily sensations, they all start to work together at tuning you with the patterns that you would need to align your everyday moments with, to attract that purpose into your life. And we talk a lot about, magnetism and attraction here on the podcast, and what is really happening behind the scenes of wanting that vision and wanting that dream and to aspire that thing in your life is your inner body, your bodily sensation, your mind, body, everything is working in unison to bring you in coherence to match that thing that you want. So your inner world has to be aligned with your outer world, and that's how you find these synchronicities starts to show up in your life. Someone just randomly call you and give you a promotion that which may very much lead you to achieving that thing that you want. And this all breaks down to working and falling in love with that inner environment, working with our thought patterns, working with our emotions, the signature emotions that we emote in everyday moments. What do we mostly feel? What is our dominant feelings? Is it one of joy? Is it one of lack? Is it one of uncertainty? And once you create an optimistic thought as opposed to one that's very much nay, that thought very much triggers emotions that is complementary to it. So when I'm thinking uplifting thoughts, automatically my emotions, my imaginations will complement that awe and wonder that is being evoked through that positive thought. Likewise, if my daily thoughts are one that's very much draining, one that's very much sabotaging, my outlook in life, automatically that type of thought pattern will trigger the emotions and the imaginations and the feelings that complements it. So when we set an intention, a goal, a purpose in life, that is just one aspect of it. We tend to focus on the outside, like looking for opportunities, like chasing, looking for the next big network group, or looking for the next course, or looking for the next podcast and reading all the books. But do we ever stop and pause to very much drop into your body, embody and understand, are my thoughts, question yourself, are my thoughts, my emotions, my feelings, the way I speak to myself in everyday moments, is it aligned with what am I aspiring to be? We never really give our inner environment the very much attention and focus that we need, which is very much the foundation, the roots of what will actually manifest in our physical environment. And we read all the books, all the ancient wisdom, they always talk about your thoughts and creating the belief that very much matches that goal, that vision that you have for yourself. And as we're having this topic on this podcast episode, when we talk about these topics like thought patterns, emotional patterns, behavioral patterns, our actions aligned with the thoughts and emotions that we're creating, which are very much what we want to align with who we're becoming in the future. The more we place our attention on these feelings, if there are situations where we need to repattern certain thoughts and emotions, the more we give it our attention, the more it starts to become aware. And you suddenly realize, oh, maybe I should not think that thought. Let me just change that thought pattern. As you change your thought pattern, you start feeling different emotions in your body. And your emotions very much rooted stored in your body. So when you very much are clear on what is it you want in your life, that purpose, that vision, regardless in any dimension in your life, a goal in your relationships, the goal in your finances, the goal in your health, in your lifestyle, when we question, are the thoughts and emotions aligned with the person who I am trying to become? And it's very much not really dependent on the object that we're hoping to achieve, whether it's that certain amount in your bank account, whether it's the blue car, whether it's the perfect partner. It's very much not really, the object is not very much independent of our emotions, but are our emotions, thoughts, and feelings aligned with the person who we are becoming when we actually achieve that outcome? So if I want that perfect partner and you question yourself, the person I am now and the person who I'll be when I finally have that perfect person in my life, would I have the same thoughts about myself? Would I feel the same emotions? Of course not. When you find yourself in situations where you very much want to settle down, you want to find a perfect person, and from where you're standing presently, you may feel that you need to do something. Maybe you need to go out some more and go to the bar and get out and meet new people. But that's just one part of it, the physical aspect of it. Here in the podcast, we like to very much turn our attention inwards. When you start to look at your feelings and your emotions about yourself, do you feel comfortable being, enjoying that space with yourself? Do you speak to yourself internally the kind of conversation that you'd want that person to talk about you? Do you feel in awe and wonder in your own space, being in your own garden or in your kitchen? Do you enjoy being with yourself? Do you enjoy, that playfulness, that joy, as you would when you actually experience it with that person? So when we question ourselves about these areas, which we never really put our attention on, as we talk about it, the more you find these thought patterns starting changing and retrospecting. And what happens is you automatically start to put these thoughts and feelings, these me time into place. You find yourself wanting to start spending time with yourself more, and automatically you forget about chasing the next thing, the next job, the next promotion, the next relationship, the next new car. All of your attention would have been on you, who you're becoming. Are these thoughts uplifting? How am I feeling in my body? Should I change this vocabulary, what I use when I talk about myself and things and situation around me? So all of a sudden, your world just shifted inwards, and you're paying more attention on what's happening inside than what's happening on the outside. And automatically, as we start to beautify and heal and empower that inner environment, the thoughts we create about ourselves and everything around us, the emotions that we feel, the imaginations, the mental rehearsals that we go rehearsing back and forth, is it aligned with who I want to become, how I want to feel, the type of person who I want to be in my relationships, in my finances, in my career, in my health? What you find, as your attention starts to, when you put your attention there, your outer world automatically shifts. Everything starts aligning according to how you start to believe. Everything starts to align in accordance to your new beliefs that you have about yourself, these new feelings. No longer do you feel the need to chase and rush and prove and push, but you would have dropped into your body, in your own thoughts, in your own emotions, and bask in there. Just stay there for a while and sit on it. And everything would have recalibrated to match the person who you've suddenly become. And I loved to talk about these topics of synchronicities and opportunities. As you start to practice these self-care regime in your everyday moments. I mean, we go to the gym, we do our burpees, we drink our smoothies, we sit and do our yoga, but how we ever place our attention on our mental habits, the thoughts, the stories that we tell ourselves repeatedly over and over, the emotions. There's so much power in emotions and feelings, and beliefs, these emotions that we feel, whether it's fear, whether it's love, whether it's sad, whether it's happy, they emit electromagnetic energy, which very much affects everything and everyone around us. So the more fear, the more self-hate, self-doubt, self-sabotage, the more emotions that are aligned with that lower scale of fear and hate and guilt and shame, you are also emitting this electromagnetic energy that is telling people and situations around you that your hate, your guilt, your self-sabotaging. So what happens is you start to attract people and situations and circumstances in your life that are also aligned with guilt and shame and hate. More importantly, when we start to dwell more and pay closely attention to these emotions that we feel in our body, the emotions that we allow, the emotions that we suppress, love and joy and happiness, independent of things and object, the more I start to evoke those feelings, that also contains and emits electromagnetic energy radiating out towards your body and affecting people and situations. And what happens is you start to attract people and situations and circumstances into your life that are attuned to the vibrational frequency that you are vibrating at: love, joy, contentment, gratitude. There is so much power there. If you are at a point in your life where you feel stuck, where things are not happening maybe as you've planned, as you would have envisioned, as you would have hoped for, never mind what the outside look like. Start to turn inwards and let's, for some time, give our attention on our thoughts. What are we thinking? What do we think about this situation? What do we think about this circumstance, this person? What do we think about ourselves, most importantly? And the emotions that automatically activate when we replay these thoughts in our minds, and the imaginations that we repeat in our heads. We have this way we like to rehearse scenarios that happened in the past or what would happen in the future. But these stories that we play in our mind, how do we play them? Are they playful? Are they joyful? Are they uplifting? Never mind something that happened in a past scenario that would have not been something that healed or empowered you. You can also replay that story, which you would have wanted it to be. Many times I do that, whether it's a career or a relationship or a health issue, is something in my past that went the opposite direction of which I, had envisioned otherwise. What I would do, I would go into my imagination, I would imagine that situation again, but in the way I wanted it to do. What you're doing is you're doing a mental rehearsal. So you take that situation and you kind of rehearsed it, giving it a different pattern. It works every time. Philosophers know this, psychologists know this, scientists know this. Your brain cannot differentiate between an event that is highly imagined and one that is very much real. So when we start to paint patterns in our mind the way we want it, which will very much fit us in our situation, you start to play the stories the other way in to suit you. So you no longer need to go back to that old story, that old record, when the record is stick because you get repeating every time. No longer are you repeating the old patterns, but you give it your own tune. You create a whole new track. And when we do that, we rewire those emotions that are very much attached to that event that didn't go the way we wanted it to. So when we start to do these small mental tricks, they're not very much tricks, they're just, who we are very much. We are thinking beings, thinking human beings, and everything in our life very much is governed by our thinking patterns, feelings, emotions, imaginations, mental habits. So I had an interview a few weeks ago, and it didn't went out the way I wanted it, at least the way I envisioned it or imagined it in my head. So what happened when it was not successful, I just didn't drown myself in sorrow. I said to myself, I created a thought right away, and that says everything happens in divine order and perfect timing for me. So I went home that same day, and in my mind, I envisioned this whole scenario that happened the day earlier in the day, but I ended it the way how I wanted it to end, successfully. And I would go over this mental rehearsal, imaginings, visualizations over and over. And a few days after, I received a phone call, and it was what I hoped for. So sometimes when things don't happen the way we wanted it to be, we often label that event as a failure, but failure is just a perception. Whatever thought you created, that failure is something bad, remember that's just a thought, and you can always repattern your thoughts. And failure just means timing isn't ready yet, at least that's how I put it. And if you always have a choice, if you want to take whatever situation happened in your life as a failure, then of course it will be a failure because that's the thought you've given it. But if you take a situation that didn't pan out the way you want it to be and reframe that thought, said, oh, maybe I'll have to try again. And this space and this time of this trial moment will even empower me even more, and make me even stronger and in preparation for when the day actually comes to achieve that thing that I want all my life. So if you've been listening to our podcast for some time, and you would find we talk a lot about our inner environment, emotions and feelings, and embodying your true color, whatever that color is. And if it's joy, if it's happiness, if it's empowerment, that color, when we give our attention to that color, like we talked about earlier, within the intention, within the idea, within the belief and the emotions, contain the mechanisms for fulfilling itself. And this has been one of my favorite things to do. I create intentions every month. An intention is very much like a thought with which you want to obtain. If it's health, if it's money, if it's relationship, if it's luxurious vacation, or to help more people, you create an intention and you start to find these little like breadcrumbs that connects you to that outcome. It's like the universe is leaving you breadcrumbs. Once there is miraculous clarity and what is it you want to invite in your life. And it works either way, positively and negatively. So you have the option to choose. What would you choose? How would you feel? How would you choose to feel? Who would you choose to become? Whatever it is, give it your fullest, deepest emotions and imaginations and thought. You bless it with that positive thought, good vibrational emotions, and joyful, playful imaginations. And you will see things starting to manifest in your life spontaneously. Until next time, embody your true color. Love.